The first time I kissed my stepson, I felt more alive than I had in years. It was wrong, it was exhilarating, and it changed everything. I'm Jessica, and I'm here to share the raw, unfiltered story of how I found myself in a relationship that society deems unthinkable. But before you judge, listen to my side of the story. It was just another mundane Saturday afternoon. I was dusting the living room shelves, lost in the monotony of my weekly cleaning routine. My husband, Tom, was away on yet another business trip, leaving me alone in our too-quiet house. As I reached up to wipe a high shelf, I caught a glimpse of movement in the hallway mirror. Ryan, my 22-year-old stepson, was leaning against the doorframe. His eyes followed my movements with an intensity I'd never noticed before. I paused, suddenly hyper-aware of how my shirt had ridden up, exposing a sliver of skin above my jeans. The air in the room seemed to thicken as our eyes met in the mirror. Need any help? Ryan's voice was lower than usual, sending an unexpected shiver down my spine. I turned, forcing a casual smile. I'm almost done. But thanks. As I bent to pick up the duster I dropped, I felt Ryan's gaze linger. The atmosphere had shifted, charged with an energy I couldn't quite name. Over the next few days, I found myself hyper-aware of Ryan's presence. Our interactions, once comfortable and easy, now crackled with unspoken tension. A brush of hands as we passed in the hallway, lingering glances over dinner. Each moment built upon the last, creating a current of anticipation that both thrilled and terrified me. One evening, as I stood at the kitchen sink, Ryan came up behind me to reach for a glass. His chest pressed briefly against my back, and for a moment, neither of us moved. I could feel the warmth of his breath on my neck, and my heart raced. It was then that I realized I was experiencing a connection I hadn't felt in years. Not with Tom, not with anyone. The loneliness that had been my constant companion for so long began to recede, replaced by a dangerous spark of excitement. I knew I was treading on thin ice, but the pull was undeniable. As Ryan finally stepped away, his fingers grazed my arm in a touch that felt anything but accidental. I gripped the edge of the sink, trying to steady my breathing. What was happening between us? And more importantly, how far would we let it go? Have you ever felt a connection so powerful, so forbidden, that it consumed your every waking thought? In that moment, pressed against the kitchen sink, I was about to discover just how intoxicating and dangerous such a connection could be. The tension between Ryan and me had been building for days, each interaction charged with unspoken desire. It all came to a head one evening as I was preparing dinner. Ryan entered the kitchen, ostensibly to grab a snack. As he reached past me to open a cupboard, his arm brushed against mine. We both froze, electricity crackling between us. I turned to face him, my heart pounding. Ryan's eyes met mine, dark with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Jessica," he whispered, his voice husky. Without thinking, I reached up to touch his face. The moment my fingers made contact with his skin, it was as if a dam had broken. Ryan's lips crashed into mine, and suddenly we were kissing with a passion I hadn't experienced in years. My body responded instantly, a rush of chemicals flooding my system. I felt dizzy with desire, every nerve ending alive and tingling. Part of my brain screamed that this was wrong, that I should push him away. But the larger part, the part starved for touch and affection, refused to let go. As we finally broke apart, gasping for air, the reality of what we'd done hit me like a tidal wave. Guilt and exhilaration warred within me. I knew this was more than just physical attraction. There was an emotional connection that terrified me with its intensity. "We can't," I said weakly, even as my body yearned to be close to him again. Ryan nodded, looking as conflicted as I felt. "I know," he replied, "but I can't stop thinking about you." That kiss changed everything. It marked a point of no return, igniting a passion that threatened to consume us both. The secrecy added an extra layer of excitement, making our stolen moments feel even more precious and intense. As Ryan left the kitchen, his fingers trailing along my arm. I knew we were stepping into dangerous territory. The biochemistry of attraction was working against us, flooding our systems with dopamine and oxytocin, creating a bond that would be hard to break. I leaned against the counter, my mind reeling. How could something that felt so right be so wrong? In the wake of that passionate moment, I found myself trapped in an emotional labyrinth. The line between right and wrong, once so clear, now blurred beyond recognition. What happens when following your heart means betraying everything you've built? The euphoria of our kiss quickly gave way to a storm of conflicting emotions. My mind raced, replaying every second of our encounter while simultaneously grappling with the weight of what I'd done. Guilt crashed over me in waves, threatening to drown out the lingering warmth of Ryan's touch. How could I have allowed this to happen? I was supposed to be his stepmother, a figure of guidance and support. Not this. Yet, even as shame coursed through me, I couldn't deny the electric current that now seemed to run between us. Every time Ryan entered a room, my body hummed with awareness. Our eyes would meet across the dinner table, and suddenly I was back in that moment, feeling his lips on mine. The desire was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the emptiness that had characterized my marriage for so long. I found myself constantly on edge, terrified that Tom would somehow sense the shift in our household dynamics. What if he noticed the way Ryan and I now avoided being alone together, or the charged silences that fell when we were? The fear of discovery was almost as overwhelming as my attraction to Ryan. As days passed, I struggled to reconcile my actions with my long-held beliefs about family and fidelity. The cognitive dissonance was maddening. How could I condemn infidelity in others while secretly yearning for my stepson's touch? Each night, I lay awake, weighing the potential consequences of pursuing this forbidden relationship against the undeniable pull I felt towards Ryan. I knew that crossing this line again could shatter our family irreparably. The ethical implications were staggering, threatening to upend not just my marriage, but Ryan's relationship with his father as well. And yet, the thought of never experiencing that connection again felt like a physical ache. In the end, desire won out over duty. With trembling hands, I texted Ryan to meet me when Tom was at work. As I waited for his reply, I realized I was stepping onto a path from which there might be no return. But in that moment, the promise of passion outweighed the price of betrayal. They say that secrets have a way of changing people. In the weeks that followed, our family dynamic shifted in ways I never could have anticipated. The weight of our secret became a presence all its own, reshaping the very foundation of our lives. On the surface, we maintained a facade of normalcy. Family dinners continued, movie nights persisted, but beneath it all, an undercurrent of tension simmered. Ryan and I developed an unspoken language of subtle glances and brief touches, our bodies constantly aware of each other's presence. The air seemed to crackle with electricity whenever we were in the same room. Tom remained oblivious, but his son, Alex, noticed the change. His eyes narrowed when Ryan and I spoke, his gaze lingering as if trying to decipher an unspoken code. Alex's presence added a layer of complexity to our already precarious situation. We found ourselves constantly on guard, hyper-aware of our actions and words. The stress of maintaining our secret began to take its toll. I felt a constant knot of anxiety in my stomach, fearing discovery at every turn. Research shows that keeping secrets within families can lead to significant psychological stress, creating a toxic environment that affects overall family dynamics. I experienced this firsthand, grappling with guilt, anxiety, and an ever-present fear of being found out. Our illicit relationship disrupted the family's cohesion in ways I hadn't anticipated. The secrecy exacerbated existing tensions, creating invisible fault lines that threatened to rupture at any moment. I found myself withdrawing from Tom, unable to meet his eyes, while simultaneously seeking out moments alone with Ryan. As weeks turned into months, the reality of our situation began to sink in. Case studies of similar situations reveal that many individuals involved in step-parent-stepchild relationships often face significant emotional turmoil, leading to a reevaluation of their family roles and relationships. I realized that my choices had irrevocably altered the course of our lives. The potential consequences loomed large: estrangement from family members, legal ramifications, social isolation. Yet, even as I grappled with these fears, I couldn't bring myself to end things with Ryan. The connection we shared had awakened something in me that I couldn't simply put back to sleep. As I prepared for bed one night, listening to Tom's steady breathing beside me, I realized that our family would never be the same. We were balanced on a knife's edge, and sooner or later, something had to give. The question was, would I be ready when it did? Looking back on this journey, I'm struck by how unpredictable love and desire can be. What started as a flicker of connection grew into a passionate affair that challenged everything I thought I knew about myself and my relationships. The line between right and wrong, once so clear, now seems impossibly blurred. I've come to realize that human connections are far more complex than society's rigid categories can capture. My relationship with Ryan exists in a gray area that defies simple moral judgments. As I face an uncertain future, I'm left questioning where to go from here. Can I ever return to my old life? Should I pursue this forbidden love, knowing the pain it could cause? There are no easy answers. All I know is that this experience has forever changed me, forcing me to confront my own desires and re-examine my beliefs about family, loyalty, and love.